accept all these concepts by using behavioral therapy. So my journey started first with Freud and Jung. Yes, I loved the self-defense mechanism and the transference and the counter-transference that Freud gave to us to help myself first and then my students in practicing psychotherapy. Jung was the very good point to start with when I found out that he is talking about the shadow and the shadow and the light, these two opposite principles to each other. The fear of rejection and sick of hope. Well, a little bit of, he started for me to be similar to the existentialism concepts about rejection, death, loneliness, fail, losses. So after that, I started to be impressed and influenced by the personalities in Dostoevsky's novels, where they were all suffering from virtue, suffering from being very good people, suffering from being very guilty all the time. And I asked my question whether this is healthy or not. Even Freud said if Dostoevsky can be classified or being put in a right category, he would be the first psychoanalyst ever, because he took the personalities from his novels and analyzed it. Schopenhauer started to when I started to read about Schopenhauer, I was very influenced about his way of talking about the need of changing our personality in counter of changing the reality. We cannot change bad situation. We need to change bad personality traits. So I took another idea from Schopenhauer. Nietzsche was very important to help me to differentiate between virtue and vice, so I can teach my client to differentiate between them according to the circumstances, not according to what is right and what is wrong. Machiavelli's novels about war and peace, and the armed virtue, so a little bit of emotional intelligence, maybe, a little bit of being able to decide what is right and what is wrong according to your own judgment. So finally, I found Erich Fromm is giving me the opportunity to mix the psychoanalysis and existentialism. The major change with Erich Fromm when he said, well, yes, the satisfaction of instinct is very important, but it guides us to creativity. That was very good and important point for me. What is SCVET? Well, in existentialism therapy, symptoms cannot be treated. In existentialism therapy, the aim is not treating the symptoms. But people after sessions has to understand how to tolerate the pain, how to guide the pain, how to live with the pain. I called it self-core values empowerment therapy, and I will say why it has this name. And I started to realize that people who come with symptoms and problems want to get rid of these symptoms and want to solve these problems, but without changing any bit in the way that they practice their own values on a daily basis. What is fixed, what is known is right, cannot be changed whatsoever, even if that value is affecting their life in a bad way. So when I say being honest is a virtue or a vice for the client, they always say it's a virtue, but it's not always the case. Sometimes, if I don't say the truth, that is a virtue. If I'm hurting someone, if I am hurting myself, I would name the thing in a different way. Who would judge this? Who decides to do that? The person. So in a very nice hashtag I started a few years ago, I called it أنت الأساس. I mean by that, you are the most important person who can judge. What does that mean? You're not the most important in the situation. You cannot be selfish. I can't make you evil. However, I can make you the criteria. As Nietzsche says, if you see someone who is moving in a different directions, you would say he's crazy. But if you hear the music that he's dancing on, you would say, oh, it does make sense. So who is hearing my own music? Nobody, me. So I am the one who has to decide. In our culture, this is really hard. This is really hard to be the campus. This is really hard to be the one who decides what is right and what is wrong for me. So my second book, I named it Mistaken. The title was named Mistaken because mistake in our culture equals evil. You have to be guilty if you do that mistake. Failure, not being there, not being able to give, not being able to be the thing that your parents wanted you to be. So I'd love to go to the first paper in 2000 when I was 15. No, I was doing my master. I started with person-centered as a personal experience. I loved it. I was the facilitator in my field work, and I did that experiment on 10 people, 10 clients, and it was amazing experience to understand myself and to understand how it goes with me as a counselor who starts for the first time in Saudi. So I came with 7 stages, okay? The categories, I used grounded theory and heuristic theory to classify the experience that I have been through because it was a qualitative data. So first impression for me, when I was trying to collect the data and collect the diaries from the clients and from myself, I found that there are 7 main categories. The first impression that took about me, the core conditions that I've been trying to practice, they were very hard on me. To be authentic was a very big test for me. Therapeutic relation, stopping of being the parent for the patient or the client was very hard for me. Feedback from clients were very important to me, and feedback between themselves. Individual differences between themselves and the individual differences that I needed to accept was very important. And value differences was very good experience for me to learn more about values and the conflict of the role as counselor and facilitator and a client on the same time with them, because it was my first experience. So I realized that this category took me to accept the ambiguity and uncertainty. Why I should think about the first impression as a counselor? Do I want to win with this client? As a personal experience, I faced it from existentialism theory when I start reading about it. The ceiling existentialism theory doesn't have a ceiling. The core conditions that I've been giving to my clients, I can do it once and sometimes I cannot do it exactly the way I want. So the anxiety has to be continuous. And all the time I need to ask myself whether I was able to do it or not. Therapeutic relationship, it's important in our culture to get acceptance from everybody. And impressing my clients was one of my mistakes. The feedback that I always wanted from them, the individual differences made me responsible to accept that everybody has a role and I have a role. I can be responsible of something, but I cannot be responsible for everything. So it was a personal experience first. The existentialism therapy for me was personal experience. That's why I was able to understand how it's painful to go through the same thing. So when I started to practice, where is the table? The big one, yes. So why it's not complete? Okay. So it became 6 phases that I used with my clients. I took all the exercises from, I adopted them from Nietzsche. Anything help. For example, Schopenhauer said, well, if you are in Alaska, you have to go to someone to help you to cope with the cold weather in Alaska, but you cannot change Alaska. So we don't change the reality, we change our personality traits. I built that exercise from Schopenhauer. From Nietzsche, I took, if you don't know the why, you will never be able to know the how. So in each phase in this SCVET, you can find that the client, what kind of unhealthy feeling they have, the old rigid value related to that, and the created value that the client chose, and the healthy feeling after that, and what I want from my client. So it's not clear here, but from accepting the uncertainty, the limitation, the rejection, the responsibility, and being different as mistaken from their side, from their point of view, from the value itself, to let it go. So the first paper was like a manual, and I had to do after that another paper using numbers. I hate numbers, but I had to do something with numbers. So I used the treatment with a number of clients. We did assess the general anxiety disorder, panic disorder, psychosomatic disorder, depression, and we did before and after assessment in 6 months, and we had the control group, and the result was very good differences between the pre and post examination and assessment with the clients. I tried it as well with the family therapy. I used faces, the name of the family family adaptability cohesion evaluating scale, to assess the families before and after. Families suffered from divorce, suffered from having a psychotic family member, or families who has loss in their situation. So it has very good result on them, and it was a very good experience to go through all this treatment. I used as well the 1-session treatment. People in Saudi, and I think in so many places, they come for 1 visit. and sometimes they don't come back. For the price, for that they're not convinced, they feel that they took what they wanted, we never know. But I designed the session in 45 minutes to cover what is needed for the client. You would ask me, what do I do with clients who come more than one session? I use it in 4 sessions maximum. I'm not loyal to the method. I'm loyal to the client. Sometimes I go through one phase, one exercise, and sometimes I'm able to do them all. I learned that from the solution-focused therapy, that it's like a basket and you can use whatever it's suitable for your own client. I did assess before and after the session the SRS scale. It's a session rating scale after each session. Another paper, we created assessments to understand before and after, specifically in existentialism concepts like uncertainty and limitation and rejection, and how do these principles are high or low with the client compared to the opposite of the concepts, being certain about everything, wanted to be unlimited, acceptance from everybody, controlling everything, and completed right, and lasting in everything. They cannot let go of anything. But this scale is extremely useful just to understand whether our clients are being able to understand our main principles before the therapy and after. And this paper hasn't been published yet, but the all validity and reliability work, we can go back to that. I want to give time for questions. This is more important for me. And another question, is it ethical? Interesting. Is it ethical to discuss values with clients? Is it ethical to ask them whether they need to sift or change or shift something that they are living on for a very long time? Is it ethical? Actually, being right in the middle and not changing anything is not ethical as well. Psychology is not systematic. Nobody can say what is ethical and what is not ethical 100%. So the situation of the counselor or the psychotherapist who's using existentialism therapy has to be very careful, I know, because in our culture, it's very important to respect the person's choice. Who decides what is the core condition, the core values? Who choose what to change and what not to change? Any clever psychotherapist, any clever counselor would be very careful with advising, would be very careful with giving piece of information that the client is not ready to take. So I want to talk about cases because they are very important to me and for you, I think. And I'm gonna start, I do respect to read when it comes to clients and, okay. This patient or this client, I met her when I was visiting one of the mental health hospitals with my students, training students. I realized that there is a new arrival patient. She was not new, she was in another ward, but when she was better, she came to the ward that we are training in. I asked about her. They said she came 3 months ago. She had ECT and antipsychotic because she was diagnosed as a schizophrenia symptoms, and she's stable. I went alone to talk to her without my students, and I asked her to allow me to come in and to start to talk to her, and she welcomed me. And this is the conversation that we started. I don't know how it happened, but I am stable now, and I want to be my old me. I asked, who were you before? She said, a very stable person. I asked, what were you stable on? She said, on everything, my work, my marriage, my motherhood. I asked, what is stability? Anyway, I forgot to tell you, she was a very good worker. She has been given a very important work because she was very unique, and she took merit, and she offered her job just before she graduated because of her marks and because of her achievement. I asked, what is stability? She said, to perform all my duties. I asked, what does performance means? She said, to be the best in everything. I asked, and what is the best? She said, to ensure I don't fall short in anything. I asked, and what is the definition of falling short? She said, to never fall short in my responsibilities. I asked, what does that mean? She said, my mother, my daughter, my husband, my work, and my success. I asked, what are your biggest fears? I love asking that question because people would be aware more about their problem when they know their fears, and when they know their fears, they know their values. She said, failure. I asked, and do you know success and good, or being good everywhere? She said, I know, but I am afraid I'm not good at them. I said, do you believe you will be 100% good in everything? She said, I believe yes, if I do everything that is required. My mother doesn't ask, but I sacrifice my entire salary for her. She needs it more than me, more than I do. I remember when I collapsed, I entered the hospital. My mother was angry because I pushed her away. I am not evil, believe me, doctor, and I didn't expect anything from them. So why did I do that to them? Sometimes I interpret what happened to me as a punishment from God for a sin I committed, or as expectation because God loves and tests us when He loves us. But what I did to my mother is terrifying. No one asked anything of me. Rather, I am the one who loves to give things and have never expected anything from them. After 3 months, she came and said, I wished when we met that you would return me to my old self. Now I understand that this would mean continuing to relapse despite taking sufficient medication. I discovered that I don't expect anything in return from others, but in reality, I do something worse. I don't want problems. I don't want pain. And by doing so, I have brought pain upon myself. I discovered that I practice hypocrisy with myself and selfishness, but with myself, to be transparent with my values and principles. I didn't care about others, but I cared about my values, which I saw as sharp, unchanging knife. The violence I did to myself was worse than I imagined. In one exercise, I stopped the change versus improvement chart and discovered that change is what happens regardless of whether is improvement or not. In the exercise of acknowledgement imperfectionism, I forgive my future self, not just my past, and began studying for my master degree, fully prepared for the criticism I will face in the discussion. A natural thing I had to accept for years. Frankly, I was very afraid for myself because of you, and was afraid of changing my values, which are all I know. But I realized that I am the context, transformed into a value. The stage of limitation saved me, and experiment exercise where I evaluated results after the situation, not before, helped me reconcile with what happens. I was afraid my conscience would die, but you helped me keep it from killing me. It was beneficial for me to treat it like a chronic illness that can't be cured. So it became psychopathy. I was afraid to be a psychopathic person. But at least being aware of it will help me see it more clearly. So I have so many cases, and I respect that we need to have some questions, but why SCVET is successful, and you can say, no, it's not. It's your point of view, but because it was a personal experience. In my first book, I did write, when I started to train some psychologists, newly beginners in psychology, I started to train them, and I did say you have to be aware of your fears and mental health before you start with clients, before you put clients in that chair. And they said, well, we're not crazy. I realized that they need to understand that the experience of the psychotherapist is more important. So my first book was my experience about my time with depression. It almost ruined me. So I wrote to my clients, my students, why I needed that therapy, why I needed to accept to be a client. In my second book, it was named Mistaken. I wanted to tell everybody that no way to avoid mistakes. We choose the minimum damage forever and always. That was a shocking stage in my treatment. All clients would say, well, we learned to choose between advantages and disadvantages. That's very scary that all the time we need to choose the minimum damage. So teaching or helping my clients to understand that we cannot get any advantages or being positive. One of them said, well, it's really hard what you say, but they come back. It's really heavy what you said. And I felt bad after the session, but they come back because they feel right, humanity, comfortable with themselves. Sometimes they see me pessimistic. Sometimes they become optimistic that, yes, I can do whatever is under my control. One of my favorite exercises, I took it from Nietzsche, when I tell my client, do you want me to help you how to be more realistic, more of what you want? They would say yes. I would say yes. Imagine we are going somewhere and you're tired and you told me, where are we going, Nisreen? And I said, we are going to a place everybody is happy and you are happy and everything is just perfect. What will you say? The client always would say, most of the time, yeah, let's go, doctor. I would say, well, you're not ready. Because you're still believing that there is a place where you can be happy and everybody you love is happy. When you admit and you say, well, I am limited, I can't impress myself all the time, and I can't even impress everybody, then I'm going to tell you how we will start this journey. So in my third book, I wrote a novel about a great and normal. There are two brothers. The first one called great and the other one called normal. And the whole conversation, philosophical background, is about how to focus on here and now with the existentialism concepts. And my fourth one was about how to pass the phases and exercises, with each phase helping the client or helping the reader how to be more realistic with their values. Very normal case would come to me and say, well, is that magic? Is someone is doing something bad to us? We need to read Quran more than we think. I would ask, when it started, they would say, 3 years ago. I say, no, not the problem. The magic, the black magic. They would say, well, 3 years ago. But the problem, when was the problem start? They would say, well, for example, one husband, he said, well, my wife loves me, but she's a very hard person, and I think her cousin did this magic to her, so she stopped loving me 3 years ago. And I said, when did you marry? He said, 20 years ago. When the first time you did realize that she doesn't love you? He would say, well, 20 years ago. So responsibility is very harsh, is very hard, but we need to face it so we can change our life. So thank you for your listening, and I'm happy to receive any questions. Thank you. Yes.
I have a question. Thank you for the presentation, very interesting one. You were doing the two drawings in the beginning, and I would like to have a connection to how you work, meaning as I understood, the top graphic is about achievements in a form of values, and the one is a more lifestyle, no? Like a value as a lifestyle or as a way of living. So how do you incorporate this into your...
Yeah, great. So according to the existentialism therapy or theory, let's say, values are very high in our life. So when it is not anymore, and we are the main value, so I drive the client to try to be the one who is the end, the goal. And all values can help because they're blind. They don't see, they don't understand. We do see and we understand. So we are the one who are using the value. So in a situation like if someone, let's say, being clean or dirty, the clean man is crying because of me every day, because I put some garbage for him. In his mind, I put the garbage in the street. But in reality, I feed the cat. So I have to choose the minimum damage. I make the cat hungry, or I make the clean man crying. In my case, I would make the clean man crying. I look evil. So I use the value suits me, not the other way around. I imagine that I am the main person who is deciding what is right and what is wrong. I go to the meeting late, but having all the work done, or not going at all because the work is not ready on time, and pay the results. I choose the minimum damage. Is there any third choice? Perfect, I go on time with my work? No. I help the client to understand that they cause damage every time, everywhere, to everybody. They're not a cause of happiness all the time. They're a mixture. I say no to my kids, so I am a harsh mom. This is one mistake or one damage. And the other damage, to give them whatever they want and spoil them. Well, today I'm gonna spoil them. I feel more likely to be this side. Tomorrow, no, I'm gonna be harsh. I think today harshness is needed. Oh, third situation, they're happy and I am happy? No way. Pain is always there. When I give them what they want, I know that it might be spoiling them, but I'm accepting the results. But I'm choosing when and how.
I understood that your therapy is more suited for you use the Carl Rogers client-centered therapy.
First.
And did you change? Why did you? Could you repeat? Did you change only for your?
Well, yes. I didn't have a time to explain that. Yes, thank you.
Also for the cultural. It's more suited for you, for the client, for the culture, or all together.
Carl Rogers helped me as counselor. It educated me as person, to be genuine, to be authentic, and it was beautiful. It is beautiful. I can't work without it. But the client need more of unconditional acceptance and being genuine. They need some tools. They need to learn more stuff, but not as parent in the session. So being the adult in the relationship of therapeutic relationship and giving the client the responsibility is very good, but full responsibility in our culture, to make the client ready for Carl Rogers, we need to go through SCVET. Creating meaning is beautiful, but before creating meaning, we are overwhelmed by so many meanings. We don't miss meanings, but we have a lot. We need to choose which meaning we can live for. So, in my opinion, the client needs to choose the battle, not to fight in the battle. We can fight all battles, but we cannot choose them. So my clients are overwhelmed by achieving here and here and here and here. Culture doesn't give us a chance to fail, to be incomplete, to do mistakes. So we have to be good in everything. So that's why I started to shift to existentialism, and existentialism allowed me to use any tools I want, but I realized that I need to get the tools from the existentialism itself.
You want them to make choices. You want them to make choices.
Yes, sure. If I am, let's say, not crazy, if I'm crazy, I would give them the choice. I would give them the, the advice and put myself in a very big fat trouble. No, sure, they choose. I teach this, I have so many videos on that who decides what is core, who decides what is values? The client. But the client needs steps, needs questions, needs to have some techniques to reach that. So this is what I do.
So if I get the concept, it's making the client's values for themselves clear. The client needs to
mirror. Excellent. Yes.
Mirror basically the client's values.
Yes.
And the consequences of my values. And as well, how do I reach or how do I keep my values in my life? At the end of the day, it's existential to have values. And how to not probably have collision with it, because usually when there's collision between two values, this is where crisis happens. So the values are probably congruent somehow, and there's not a lot of discrepancy where probably things can happen. So this is the end goal in your approach, that okay, the values are clear and I know what I'm doing and I'm aware of my values.
Yes. Even if, for example, a client who's talking about choosing the partner that my family doesn't want to. So I will put the client in this choice. And I do that with the clients who want their families, even though they want that partner. But this is the client's decision. So I put the minimum damage through the steps with the client. And what are you living with for the rest of your life? What damages you can live with? Sometimes, or most of the times, they want something without any damages, but I bring them back. No, there is, and you have to choose which kind of pain you can live with. So when the client chooses the family, I can help there to cope with this decision, because this is the client's situation, this is the client's life, this is the right for them. So I don't drive the client to something right and wrong from my point of view. No. If the client, for example, is choosing to leave a very good, nice job to another thing, in my opinion, if my son is going to do that, it's really hard to accept that. But the client is convinced, so he has to choose it. And it's not easy to do that and to try not to be influencing the client, but with training, I think it can be. Yes?
Follow-up question. You're aware of ACT, because the
Yeah.
acceptance and commitment, because the
Yeah.
word sounded similar to ACT, because an ACT is a lot of work with values, what are my values, and how to establish my life within values and accepting the damage that is going to happen, or accepting the pain that is
Yeah.
part of being reality.
Yes, you're right.
So how would you say it's probably a little bit different from ACT, or is it probably same but more of an existential approach, where ACT is a little bit
Yeah.
from cognitive therapy and so on?
Let's start with Albert Ellis. Admitted that he was influenced by existentialism. Anyway, and so existentialism and psychoanalytic are very old, basic schools. You cannot not be influenced by them. However, I consider my therapy different from ACT from the beginning. Accepting the uncertainty is very basic in my therapy. Accepting that you cannot answer all the questions. I remember the Shawshank prison movie. Have you seen it? So I'm not focusing on the hero who's Andy, or the prison leader, or Brooks, who committed suicide after during the when he went out of the prison. I focus on Red, the normal person, absolutely normal person. The normal person doesn't understand that so many questions in my head cannot be answered. So the meeting that he was entering every year to decide whether he is approved to go out of the prison or stay, he started to use philosophy. When they used to ask him, "Are you ready to go out?" he would say, "Yes, I am ready. I'm a good person, and I'm not going to harm anyone." The last time when he was asked, "Are you ready to go out now?" he said, "I don't know." So accepting that, being loyal to the question more than the answers, is a way to live. So I think this is one of my different points. And another different point, most of therapies put the advantages and disadvantages. I never go to advantages because they mislead the client. Go to the disadvantages all the time. And it is one of the turning points for the clients all the time. And they are mostly impressed about this, and they stuck sometimes, and they go out and they disappear for 1 month, and they come back saying, "Well, it's very realistic. Now I'm living with my choice. It's painful, but at least I am the one who did choose it." training for that.
Yeah, because there is something very similar to things I use.
Ah, really? Interesting.
Yes, this kind of what are your values and accept the cost. If you want to follow or not follow your values.
Yeah.
And in particular, when I work with the client not coming from, I live in Milano,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm born in a little town in south of Italy,
Mm-hmm.
very little.
Mm-hmm.
And when I work with the people migrated from south of Italy, Milano,
Yeah.
I use this kind of dialectic with their strong values. For example, I have a client who lives in Milano. She doesn't live no more in her village in the south of Italy, but she still has a boyfriend in Milano. They are both from the village. They should stop their relationship because they are not. But they want to marry because otherwise they feel they cannot disappoint the people in the village.
The false hope.
But they don't live anymore there.
Ah, yeah.
So I have no relationship, just the phone call with the mother.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
So in the end, I told them, if you want to follow this value, that you have to marry, because otherwise you are ashamed of what we don't live there anymore. But you are ashamed of.
I'm going to give you a trick for that.
Yes,
So if
you want to follow this value, or you want to
yeah,
to
one of the main tools, yeah, from Hegel, when you mentioned DBT, I don't read about DBT as much as I read about the person who did create the dialectical stuff. So he says that the human mind is like triangle. We born and we get this opinion and this opinion, they are opposite to each other, yes or no, do it or don't, good or bad. They are both, this is one of my exercises, I took it from Hegel, yeah. If you make it two pieces, this side equally to that side, okay? But both sides are not from you, are not from your own experience. Both are inherited. When you say to yourself, yes or no, no, it is from my history, the mother, the father who said no for something that might be harmful for me. Yes, it is from my old friend who would say, well, don't be harsh on yourself. Well, but both are not mine. So you go up to different sides of this corner, taking some of what is here can suit you. Up here, create your own value. For example, this couples, one of them would say yes, no. Yes or no are not theirs, but the last decision based on their experience, the mature experience, the mature decision, they would say, well, I feel bad that I disappointed my family, but I think I need to say no. Not guilty. My theory believes that feeling guilt towards any side of these would make the client stuck forever. We cannot have our own values because we don't feel that we're good enough to decide. Our sense is not important. Our heart doesn't know, but unfortunately, it does. So I learned from Erich Fromm that we need 5% of our mind. It's a sharp knife. 95% is our sense, is our experience, is the way we face stuff. Nobody can live our situations. So what if I was not okay or was in pain or in a very big loss when I go to that decision? Well, yeah, we decided from the beginning you are in pain, but you choose one of the pain. So the second step will be, well, accepting the fact that I'm limited. But if no, doctor, I'm not going to choose this. I'm going to choose this or this. Okay, choose. They would say, well, this is painful. This is painful. This is not good. This is not good. And this is not good. But I can live this, not this, or this. So that's why I can't sell positivity in my therapy. I'm very well known that I am they say I am a very negative counselor or psychotherapist. But I don't think so. I think I'm very realistic. Any other question?
It's interesting that you don't use the advantages, you're not selling dreams or anything, but people keep coming back.
Yes.
It's also interesting that, because people also, they come, they want to have hope also, you know?
Yeah.
Because they're in a desperate situation.
I'm against motivational videos.
Yeah?
They make you sick more than you can imagine.
Because you get disappointed that it doesn't happen, or what is
because the motivator is talking about his own experience, and you think that you can follow the same thing, but you're not the same person. How can you live the same experience? So you blame yourself that you're not achieving the same thing that he or she is achieving. No. Even in our own society, when you hear someone is saying something, well, I can't understand these fathers why they're doing that, or these ladies doing.